Everybody, this is Perch. What is this is a video called "Making a Difference." So this is an email I got asking me, "Is this channel making a difference?" We'll read it here. But prefaced in all this, I guess, is what's the point of this channel? I've said this before. It's still the same. The primary purpose of this channel is to keep myself entertained when I'm driving around, or have some thoughts on comics. One of my favorite activities in the comic shop was to talk with the customers, was to hear those crazy comic shop debates, was to go over this or that, or answer questions, or any of that stuff. That was what was fun to me. And I enjoyed it. And that's really what this channel is sort of doing from my perspective. So this channel is very selfish. Just I'm saying it just bluntly, it's very selfish. It's probably very selfish for Mumbles too, who gets to come in and make comments from time to time. Well, every video. But it is what it is. I don't get insulted when people say things like the audio is trash or any of that stuff. I get insulted when my words are manipulated. I get pissed about that. But otherwise, I know I know the audio is trash. I know that the little video bits are, I know all this stuff is true. It's just a conversation. I'm not taking it seriously. I don't have a big desire to become a YouTube star. That's not the point. The channel has 31,000 subscribers plus. I'll make the joke before Mumbles does. That's 31,000 subscribers too many. And I never intended for it to happen. I'm glad it happens. Some people have said, well, if you didn't intend for it to happen, then why do you try and, put the videos up and use a thumbnail and all that? Why don't you just make it look trashy? Well, because I do still put pride into what I do. In that respect, I'm, I at least hold myself to a higher standard than several of the comic publishers these days. But I mean, I try and do my best. But in the end, it's just fun. It really is just fun. I'm not trying to change the world. I'm not trying to shift your thinking. So when people come in and say, "Oh, here's Perch trying to convince us something," or "Here's Perch showing his industry shill credentials again," it's like, it's just a conversation. It's just me talking. I'm not looking to convert you. I don't care. I care about you as a person. I'll happily buy you a beer, as I've said. But I don't care if you change your mind, because my goal is not to change your mind. Other channels are trying to do that. Other channels are trying to make a business model out of it where they can, fund whatever. I don't care. It's just fun. And that should be a good thing. That should be something that's nice, that we're just here to have fun. So this question asks a bit of it. It says, making a difference. So it says, Dear Sir Perchable, okay, you have on a lot of pros, and I'm guessing you talk with even more outside YouTube. Absolutely, especially lately, because I haven't had the chance to sit down and do a lot of interviews this year, or live streams, as you've noticed. And so, I haven't talked to many people, but I do talk to a ton outside. I would say, I don't know, a lot. A lot of artists, probably more writers, decent amount of editors, lots and lots of people. I talk regularly to people I've been critical of on this channel. If you're a close listener, you know kind of who, Fraction, others. There are plenty of people that I talk to on a regular basis. Asking bluntly, it's back to the mail, do you feel that advice you give and opinions you share resonate and change anything? Have any writers or editors actually heard you and used that information or advice to make a change for the better, or does it feel more like tilting at windmills? If you've been successful, would you be willing to hint at some of the things you convince people of without naming names? Well, let's finish the mail first. But the answer is yes, I do think there's been some success. But I'm not doing this trying to change anyone's mind. So I did the whole intro at the beginning. So I don't feel like this is tilting at windmills, because it's not a mission. This channel isn't intended to be a mission. That said, I do know that I've given a lot of advice that's been taken on a number of different fronts, but we'll get to that in a second. So we'll finish up the mail. It says, I think I speak for a good few of your listeners in hoping things like viewer questions get in the ear of some pros who realize that the criticism isn't all SJW's killed comics, it's all woke, and that there are real paying and active customers who have concerns, and concerns that frankly aren't even all that difficult to address. I think subs of your channel are probably more likely than most comic channel subs to be actual paying customers, probably. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for giving us nerds a voice. Well, I'm a nerd too, so we all have a voice here. So nicely said, and thank you. Yes. So first off, I guess I will say this pretty clearly. So many pros, including people who have come on. So I can, like Sean Murphy, who's come on, like Jeff Thorne, who's come on, like Pat Shand, like Jim Zub, hell, like Ron Mars as well, have said and have recognized that a lot of the people, the shows they've listened to, the viewer questions that have come in, or the topics are from people who are real human beings who are trying to make things better. Even if they're critical, they do believe that. They also note at times that, there's a few of the people in the comments that seem to be batshit crazy, and there are. But by and large, a lot of the people who are making these kinds of criticisms are not SJW bad, women good, or whatever. They're not. They're not that type. They're actually. There is a passion and a desire and almost a need to communicate what's troubling them about this hobby and this comic profession that they love. I know some of the editors I talked to have said the same thing, that, well, clearly you have people who honestly do want to, make it for a better. I've gotten the comment a number of times of, I wish more of the criticism on Twitter was like the people who comment on your channel, who actually do seem to buy comics and actually do seem to want to make things better. I have no way of gauging, by the way, who's buying what or whatever, but I will say that the majority of the mail, particularly the ones I read, are people who, honest to goodness, want this business to be successful and powerful and financially viable for everyone. The majority. I don't read some of the mails. I mean, I read some, not all, but I don't read mails that, I don't read some mails. So I definitely get mails that are urging for, people to die, be fired, starve to death, and so on. There's a spew of those coming on, but they don't get airtime. But yes, a lot of the people I talk to inside of comics recognize this, appreciate it, and have learned from it. In terms of specific things, so I mean, obviously, I could use one because he said it himself. So Sean Murphy, in his interview, has talked about things that he's heard on this show, either from me or advice I've given or things that viewers have said, and he's tried to incorporate it. I think Brett Booth has said similar things in the comments before. I know several has. I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but I know several people have gone on the record and said something like that. I think Kari Andrews said something like that when he was on the show. These are things that people say publicly. I know that there's a handful of writers who have definitely tried to incorporate some of the storytelling ideas and advice, and you do see them in comics. You've seen some changes. It is unfair and just frankly ignorant and wrong to say that nothing is shifting and nothing is changing. Now, not all the changes are good. Several of my ideas also suck. I've had a creator who's reached out saying, I tried your thing and it sucked. I think that's fair and true as well. I know that, I don't think it's ever been said publicly, but there's a couple. There's a very big name writer who's definitely incorporated some things and it worked out quite well for him. And, I think you could probably read between the lines, but yeah, there's definitely some people, and I think I've had some influence, and hopefully positive influence. I've also had some negative influence, if I'm being completely honest with you, where I've said, the art here is kind of crappy and everything else. And I've heard from artists who have written me saying, hey, that hurt. I'm doing the best I can. They saddle me with an absolute shit inker. And, this is the result. And I felt bad about that. I felt bad about stuff where I'm like, this story really isn't going anywhere. And the writer writes in going, yeah, when editorial changes what you write and basically takes your 6-issue arc and says get it done in 4 issues when you're on issue number 3, the story's going to kind of suck. And so I felt bad about that. I've called things out, and I've had people reach out saying, hey, that hurt my feelings and wish you wouldn't have done that. I feel bad about it. I've had editors make some changes to their processes around kind of how comics are reviewed. I did some videos talking about when you can do a business model study or do a pitch deck And I know several people have done pitch decks now, and they've said thank you, or they've credited me. In some cases, they've asked me to do it for them, and I've helped a couple people out, certainly with a pitch deck. So I mean, I try and do net good as opposed to bad, and hopefully that's come across. But I guess it's look. I'll put it to you this way, and this is more of a life philosophy than a comic philosophy, and you can make fun of it all you want. But I think it's always the right thing to do to try. Always. And I understand that, that there's other arguments to that. I understand. I know that there's differences of opinion, but I think it's always the right thing to do to try to do the right thing, to try to help someone out. Even if it seems that person is obstinate, doesn't want to listen, a jerk. This is my philosophy, and I am who I am. If somebody is, reaches a hand out, I generally will help pull them up. Now, there's a few exceptions, but I have a very small list. Like, you can count it on one hand of people that I would say, nope, screw you. You deserve to be down there in the ditch. But it's counted on one hand, and I guarantee you, that list is not who you think. I know that this audience knows at least 3 of the names on that list, guaranteed. But it is not who you think. It used to be 4 people. Now I think there's 5. Yeah, I can still count it on one hand. But absolutely. So actually, one of the names is probably exactly someone you would think, but the other 4 are I think would surprise you. Anyway, but that's me. I think it's the right thing to do to try. I've used this quote before. What it's at the end of 7. It's what it was Morgan Freeman's quote, and I'm going to screw it up, but it's equivalent along the lines of, they say the world is a good and wonderful place and worth saving, and I agree with that last part. That's me. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to hero comics. I don't know. It certainly caused a lot of heartbreak and a lot of pain, and I've definitely made a harder road for myself at times because of that philosophy. But that's the person I am. Take it or leave it. So anyway, yes, it does make a difference, and I would encourage you, if you have an idea, if you have a thought, you have something to make the industry better. It's easy to black pill yourself and just think that it's not worth it and everything's rotten. But as much as you can, resist that urge, because it's worth saving. It's worth the journey. It's worth trying. I think that put it this way: the worst thing that could happen is somebody doesn't take your advice, and you get to watch them fail. So that's always entertaining. Anyway, there you go. Thank you very much for the question and allowing me to go on a slight philosophical bend. And that old Perch, industry shill pussy cock. Thanks for listening.